going to walk you through the steps on how to change the oil and the fuel separator, as well as taking a look at any other fluids, the transmission fluid that may need to be checked. This is a Malibu Eschelon 1996. The reason I'm doing this video is because I couldn't find anybody else who'd done any of these things on other sites. So first thing I'm going to walk you through and show you what to do. There's two ways that you can change the oil on this. The first, and probably the most simple, would be to reach down in here, down into an oil bidge. A lot of times, if it's done just right, you just unscrew that there, make sure you're at a lower point, and you can pour out all the oil. Now, over the years, since the boat is a little bit older for me, it was a little bit more difficult for me to be able to get that out. Try as I might, that brass is pretty well solid in there. You can see I kind of chewed it up a bit trying to get it out. Eventually gave up. So I found another option just as easy, and it seems to get it out just as cleanly. Okay, what I found, got this device here. It's a little brass pump. What's really awesome about this thing is it's got this little, looks exactly like a hose adapter. It's threaded on the inside. And what the great thing about it, when you pull out your dipstick, if you look inside here, you can see there's threads on it. So what happens is you take this end here, stick it all the way on there, get it nice and tight. What I have found, to get my circulator, I had to remove this hose here, and then I can get to it nice and easy and just get it down. You don't have to get too tight, just snug. And then it's really simple there to use the pump action and just suck up all the oil. I find that it, pulling out about four liters takes, I don't know, just a couple of minutes. Pumping doesn't take too long. I've seen people use electric pumps, but this was no big deal. I think anybody can do it in a very, very short amount of time. So I got the oil out of there. Then you want to come back here to the back side. You can see way down low here is your oil filter. Hopefully I can get there. Now, to get that on and off, I absolutely recommend using this so you can get a nice good grip on it. I don't have a lot of space in there. I got maybe just a couple of inches. So I put if you see, there's very little space underneath that. So I put some rags under there, and then I also put a little tiny tray to try and capture the little bit of remaining oil. I'd say about an ounce or so is going to come out of that after you've emptied out the oil pan specifically. I always like to put a date on that so you can remember when I've done it last, but seems to work just fine getting it in and out. Okay, obvious thing now is coming back to the other side of the engine and going, removing this cap here and going in and starting to fill it up. I use a funnel for mine to get it in. I had no problem putting in 3.84 liters and just a little bit of a quart. But what I end up doing is making sure that you're checking the dipstick all the way along. The last thing you want to do is put too much in beforehand. So I put the full thing in. I ran the engine for about 30 seconds, get the oil flowing, and then started to check it again and just add a little bit more into it. So I have probably around 4 quarts or so of oil inside the engine now. The next thing to do is, here's your fuel separator. Also on the same side as where you're going to add the oil back in. Fuel separator here. You can pick this thing up at Walmart. I can't remember, it's a Datawood name brand. Seems to work pretty well. I like to place it annually. But I use that same ratchet oil ratchet to get it off. Make sure that you're putting a little bit of oil on top of that so that it seals well each and every time. The manual also recommends that you put a little oil here. These are, it's going to be your throttle, and I put a little bit of engine oil on there, in there, specified oil as it's in the manual. Lastly, you want to do, after you've run the engine, you come out here to the back, turn it around here, and you can see here's the transmission. Get it in there good. There. The transmission dipstick there, it's pretty easy to pull it out. I pull it out. You have to do it within 2 minutes of having the engine run to say it's at the right level, and it's pretty easy there. You also want to oil this right here. I put these 2 joints, so lubricate it, and then lubricate the one up underneath it as well. That's for your forward, reverse, and neutral. All right, I had somebody adjusting this, like made sure that it was getting good oil or lubrication while the throttle's being moved between forward, neutral, and reverse. I've always used a fake lake, you know, to run water through the engine. But I found here, you can see where the inlet is. That comes in from the bottom of the boat where the fake lake may come. The manual recommends go ahead and undoing those bolts there, those two, those ring, I'm not sure what you call them, ring nuts. Undo both of those, and I found I had to remove this one down here based on the arc of my hose. So I was able to pull that out, and then what I ended up doing is taking a hose and sticking it inside there. It's a perfect size for a regular size hose. So you have somebody put it on about halfway speed and then start the engine. Then it'll suck the water in just fine and holds the hose in place. I ran it for about 10 minutes, make sure I'm cleaning out any soot in that seawater prop there, which is constantly sucking water in. It says to keep doing it for 10 minutes or until it's clean. The water seemed pretty fresh and clean most of the time when I've done it there. One other maintenance thing there, if you can see, that's the pump to pump out the excess water. That can get pretty gnarly at times. I recommend go ahead and cleaning that out. There's 2 little tabs. You can kind of see them. There's one here on this side and one on the other side. I found that the other side was easier to get to. So you push that in, it'll pop up, and you can see the propeller on the inside. And to clean that out, make sure there's no gump. It's got a little. I didn't get that. Could you try again? It's got a little floater on the inside there, which tells it to kick on if it gets too full at some point in time. Otherwise, it's all manually run at the dash. Overall, this engine seems to run really great, even after over 20 years of service. This boat has always been parked indoors, so it's kind of helped a bit keeping it, but I always check the hoses and whatnot, make sure they're all clean. Here, this fuel line, here it's a clear fuel line, making sure that there's no fuel in there. If there is, you got problems, so you're gonna have to address it right away, probably with a mechanic. But okay, hope this was helpful. I know that I can't tell you how many videos I tried watching trying to find something like this one. If you have any other questions for me, go ahead and just put them in the comments. All right, good luck.